Hi, I'm Mark Essola, Engineering Product Team Manager for Wildcat, and we're here today to talk about the all-new 2012 Wildcat. Okay, now we're to the front end of the Wildcat. Front suspension. We talked about suspension on the Wildcat. The front end also has a lot of interesting stuff going on here. First of all, let's talk. This is a double A-arm traditional setup, something you've seen on utility vehicles and ATVs before. When you look at the front of the Wildcat, we really worked and spent a lot of time to make it as narrow as we could and make these A-arms as long as we could. And the reason we did that is to get that monstrous 17 inches of wheel travel. When you bring everything into a center point like that, you'll see we designed an all-new steering rack to get the pivot points of the tie rods into the same plane as the A-arms. And why would we do that? Well, there's a term in the suspension world called bump steer. And as the suspension goes up and down, just like this, following my hand, the wheel will actually change in toe. And that's because the tie rods are quite on the same plane as the A-arms. So then it just turns slightly. You probably won't feel the vehicle do any of that. We're in an off-road environment, off-road tires. But we minimized it as much as we could by getting the tie rod points and redesigning the steering rack. We also have the Walker Evans front shocks up here to control that big bump and that monstrous wheel travel. Different from the back though is you don't have that transition adjust that we talked about, but we already have the primary rate spring. This looks more like what you'll see on maybe a sport ATV or a dirt bike. You'll see this spring is fully compressed, and we use that just to set the ride height and the sag of the vehicle. And you can adjust that preload again just like you did on the rear and adjust the ride height as you want if you find a situation where you want to customize the vehicle. So you have that preload adjust. And again, as we talked about on the rear suspension, there's the compression adjustment for the shock itself. And there's an indication on there to make it softer or harder. But once again, work with your dealer. And if you're trying to customize a ride, if you don't understand that, get in there and talk to your guys. They'll work with you and help you set up the vehicle the way you want it to. The other thing we have going on here is our electric power steering system that we've been talking about the last couple years on the Wildcat vehicles.